Namaste. Welcome to Vinyasa Flow Yoga. My name is Michelle Chua. For today's physical practice, where we're going to focus on bringing the shoulders into flexion, which will help to open up if you've got any tension in the upper back, the lats region, the triceps. Grab a couple of blocks, you can see them behind me, and a strap, just in case for the strap, but definitely the 2 blocks. And if you don't have straps where you're, if you don't have blocks where you're practicing, then you may want to have like a firm cushion that you can elevate your elbows on. So maybe like about a foot or less away from the ground, so that thick. And then let's start in any comfortable seat. If you're sitting cross-legged and your knees are lifting up higher than your pelvis, then grab something to sit on. You can place your blocks side by side like this on the lowest height to create a wide seat to elevate your pelvis on top of, and then allow your pelvis to slightly tilt forward by sitting towards the front edge of your props. So the other day I was listening to a short clip of a TED Talk by a death doula named Alua Arthur. She authored a book recently called Briefly Perfectly Human. And she offers some insights in thinking about our own death, which I thought it would be helpful to share as it's connected with yoga philosophy. She says that one of the main things that she wants to have her clients that she's working with through the dying process to think about is the biggest question is, what must I do to be at peace with myself so that I may live presently and die gracefully, holding both at the same time? She says that, yeah, it's difficult to think about our own death, right? It's not something we necessarily look forward to. And it's a lot of uncertainty. It's that big unknown, which can cause a lot of suffering to even think about. But as we open up to the idea of how thinking of our own death can help us to live a life that's more meaningful, then there's that bright side of it. And she also asks 3 questions when you're preparing for that. Who do I want to be in this lifetime ultimately? What's the bigger picture of who I want to be? How do I want to spend my time, therefore? And what of me will I leave behind? What part of me will I leave behind? She also says that why not make meaning of the magic of the mundane? You might have heard the word FOMO, the acronym, fear of missing out. And it's interesting. It's like someone who's always chasing after some magnificent adventure in order to feel satiated. But it's kind of like a hamster wheel, because one thing just leads to another. And it's like this inability to have contentment with what's here now. So how do you find contentment with what's here now, with the so-called mundane moments of the day-to-day living, which is what we spend most of our life doing, is those little moments? And then she says, give ourselves permission to be fully human, messily, briefly, and perfectly human. A life lived in and loved, a life that's worth dying from. The gift of being with our mortality offers the sheer wonder that we even live at all. So that's an interesting perspective, is thinking about the end of this life can help us to have a fuller life presently. In the Yoga Sutras, teaches that there are 5 main root causes of suffering. I've mentioned this before a while back. And one of those main causes of suffering is the fear of death, abhinavesha in Sanskrit. In many ways, the fear of death can show up in our lives, in even the subtlest ways that might not feel directly linked to that fear. How are we with uncertainty in our lives, in addressing change and stepping into the unknown. Death is a lot about that. How are we in closing chapters or letting go of things that are no longer serving our well-being or the well-being of others around us? And that could be physical things, that could be emotional things, that could be beliefs, opinions. So just some food for thought, because ultimately these root causes of suffering, the various 5, are very much linked into forgetting who we really are, forgetting that eternal self that resides within, that is not only this physical body that is impermanent, that is not only the mind and the thoughts that come and go. So with that in mind, let's bring some ease, open up our bodies, open up our breaths, open up our minds. And in the end, we'll sit for 5 minutes in meditation. So let's begin by checking in. Let your body be still as you connect to whatever you're feeling in your body right now, bringing a friendly attention to it. Sensing the quality of your breath just as it is. Note how you're feeling energetically. Now start to zoom in to how you're feeling in your mind and emotions. What's present there right now? Acknowledging all of these different layers of your state of being. Let the breath in a little fuller through your nose. Releasing it through the mouth. A little slower in through the nose. A little slower out through the mouth. As you continue to deepen your breath, what is something right now that you can appreciate about your life? Centering on gratitude, what would you like to celebrate more of? What would you like to bring more attention to and expand? Set your intention or your focus for today's practice. And as we recognize that we are all interbeing with each other, to whom would you like to dedicate your practice today? Let's set our intentions and dedications while creating resonance by chanting Om 3 times. Inhale deeply. Let's begin to invite balance of energy, calmness, and focus of mind and body with the practice called Ujjayi Pranayama, victorious breathing. So as you close your lips, breathing just through your nose, invite a soft whispering sound to the breath by gently narrowing or softly constricting the back of your throat. As you listen to that sound, slow down and balance the length of your in and out breaths. As you listen to that rhythm, see if you can keep it going as consistently as possible throughout our physical yoga practice, especially the breath-led movement that's called Vinyasa flow. So let's start with one. Come on down to hands and knees. Set your blocks aside near the top of your mat. And let's begin to warm up the shoulders since we're focusing on them quite a bit today. In cat-cow, so step your shoulders on top of your wrists. Step your knees a couple of inches behind the hips. And as you inhale, slowly glide your chest forward and coil it up. As you exhale, contract your abdomen, dropping your head to round your back. Again, inhaling, roll your shoulders behind you and broaden your chest upwards. Exhaling, lift the belly in and dome your back. Keep going for another 3 or 4 cycles of breath, really slow. Consciously synchronizing the pace of your movement with the pace of your breath. Now let's warm up the shoulders some more. Spread the fingers really flat so your index fingers are pointing straight ahead or slightly turned out. Start to lift the sides of the belly so you're engaging the belly but not rounding the back. Think of a flat back this time. Lengthen your neck and steady your gaze on the ground just ahead of your thumbs. And now straighten your right leg and tuck your right toes. Try to keep your hips still as you do that so you're not swaying the pelvis to the left. Straighten your left leg and actively press both of your heels back. Imagine your tailbone is stretching towards your inner heels as the center of your chest and the top of your head is stretching towards your front wall. Rotate your outer upper arms, which are your triceps, towards the back wall and slightly lift between the shoulder blades. Still engaging the belly. On your next inhale, shift forward as far as you can. You can lower the knees if you need more support. Exhale, lower halfway down and graze your elbows by your ribs. Keep looking forward, lengthen the neck, Chaturanga Dandasana. Then inhale, press up to plank and set your knees down if the legs are straight. Now let's give the triceps a little more of a stretch and the lats. So take your blocks and place them on the second level like this, medium height, or whatever you're using in place of blocks. And place them across the mat so they're touching each other like a train passing by. Then have your knees about a foot behind the blocks and extend your arms forward with your palms face down. Now begin to spin your triceps or outer upper arms towards the ground and protract, which means spread apart and lift the shoulder blades out to the sides while you depress, which means press down the shoulder blades onto the back ribs. Now bending the elbows as you do that, place your elbows exactly your shoulders distance apart on the blocks. How's your breathing? Still aware of it? Press your fingertips into each other. And now make sure that your knees are a couple of inches behind your hips. Slowly trace your thumbs down the back of your skull. Maybe down the back of your neck if they'll go that far, maybe even far further. As you lower your head, let your chest sink and expand. But don't let the belly sink. Lift the belly slightly towards the back so you're engaging the abdomen slightly and draw your hips back. Now inhale into your outer armpits. Exhale, relax your neck. Inhale into your side ribs. Exhale, relax your jaw. Now inhale from your armpits to your outer hips, the sides of your torso. Exhale, let the collarbones broaden. Now continue another 3 slow breaths. Each exhalation, relaxing something that you could relax. Make sure the elbows are still shoulders distance apart and you're still spinning the triceps towards the ground and pressing the shoulder blades down your back. Notice what sensations you're feeling in your body right now. And just make note of that. On your next exhalation, engage your abdomen a little more so you can lift your head and remove your elbows from the blocks. Now let's place the blocks at the front of your mat like this, tallest height, shoulders width apart, and step up to the top of your mat behind the blocks in a standing forward fold. Separating your feet at least hips width apart, parallel your second toes. Now bend your knees and reach the hands behind you. Let's do the opposite of shoulders and flexion, which is what we were doing on the blocks. This is shoulders and extension, so clasp your hands or hold a strap between them. And as you breathe in, tilt your weight forward and lift your chest. Look ahead of you. As you breathe out, fold a little more, drop your skull, loosen up your neck, and stretch the arms away from your lower back. So we're opening the front of the shoulders here. Spend a few deep breaths, maybe swaying the spine gently side to side, maybe straightening one leg a little and then the other, maybe switching the cross of the thumb and index finger on top. But keep creating space in the neck. Let the head hang loose. Lift the shoulder bones away from the neck. One more deep breath. Now drop your arms and bend the knees even more. Slightly engage your belly. As you breathe in, really slowly roll up as if you're stacking one vertebra at a time. Lifting your head last, roll your shoulders back and down, and then join your hands to meet at your heart center in Padasana. Come back to your intention for this practice. As you listen to the breath, let's offer gratitude to the sun through sun salutations. Inhale, sweep your arms overhead and roll your shoulders back, tilt your chest up. Exhale, bow forward from your hips. Feel free to bend the knees. Plant your fingertips on your blocks or your shins. And inhale, lengthen your spine forward to a half forward fold. Step back to plank pose. And as you exhale, firm the belly in and glide forward. Graze your elbows by your ribs and slowly lower all the way down. Firm the tops of your feet into the ground. Hug the elbows in and inhale, peel your shoulders back. Look slightly down in a baby cobra pose. Tucking your toes, exhale, press up through plank and lift your hips into downward facing dog. Pause for 3 deep breaths. Roll your triceps towards the ground and lift the shoulder blades onto your back ribs. When you've emptied this breath, walk or lightly jump to the front of your mat, forward fold. Press your blocks or the floor. Inhale, half forward fold. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise up, sweep the arms forward and coil your chest up. Exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart center. Let's continue 2 more cycles of that sun salutation A. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana, raise your arms up. Exhale, Uttanasana, bow from your hips. Inhale, lengthen halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Step into your version of plank and exhale, glide forward and lower. This time, you could lower halfway down if you want to go deeper into the back bend and enter upward facing dog, flipping the toes and drawing the shoulder heads back. Exhale, contract your belly to lift your tailbone and then press the tops of your thighs back. Let's pause for 3 breaths in Adho Mukha Svanasana. When you've emptied the third, walk or float to the front of your mat. Press with your hands, inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Uttanasana. Root down to rise, inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, join the hands in mountain pose. Once more, Surya Namaskar A. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Step to plank and lower or lightly jump to Chaturanga Dandasana if you practice jumping. Keep going through your vinyasa. Follow your breath pace. Downward dog, pause. And steady your gaze, your drishti, for 3 deep breaths. Now we're going to cut it right here. And as you inhale, raise your right leg behind you. Try to keep your hips leveled. Now as you exhale, bend the right knee, and now externally rotate the thigh at the hip. So turn it out. Stay here as you inhale, tack your left outer hip back. And as you exhale, bring your right knee towards your nose and lift the belly high, round the back, shift into plank, and then softly land the foot beside your right thumb. Stay high in the ball of the back foot, and inhale, rise up into crescent lunge. With arms overhead, hands together or apart, find that same external rotation of your outer upper arm spinning forward and that depression of the shoulder blades sliding down the back. Seal in the bottom of your front ribs. Direct your tailbone down as you square your hips forward. Let's listen to 3 more cycles of breath here. Turning to your left, warrior 2. Spin your left heel down and align your right heel to intersect the arch of your left foot. Opening your arms, steady your gaze just past your right hand, and tune in to another 4 breaths. Virabhadrasana 2. Flip the right palm to face up. Inhale, side bend towards your rear wall, peaceful warrior. Exhale, cartwheel your hands to the floor and take a cat-cow or continue down through a vinyasa. We'll meet in downward facing dog. In downward dog, try to keep your hips leveled and inhale, raise your left leg behind you. Now exhale, bend the knee and turn out your left thigh at the hip. Stay here and inhale, tack your right outer hip back. As you exhale, contract your belly and round forward into plank pose, knee to nose. Gently as you can, step the foot beside your left thumb. Stay high on the ball of the right foot and inhale, rise to crescent lunge. Hands together apart, triceps rotating forward, shoulder blades sliding down the back. Seal in the bottom of your front ribs. Directing your tailbone down, square your hips to face forward. Let's tune into 3 last breaths. Spin the right heel down. Warrior 2, align your left heel to intersect the arch of your right foot and open up your arms, steadying your gaze past your left hand. 4 deep breaths. Flip the left palm to face up. Inhale, peaceful warrior, side bending. Exhale, lower your hands and continue down, your choice of vinyasa. Downward facing dog. 3 deep breaths. Slowing down the breath and inviting balance. On emptied breath, walk or jump lightly to the front of your mat, forward fold. Inhale, half forward fold. Exhale, fold. Rooting down, inhale, rise. Lifting your heart towards the sun. Exhaling, join your hands in gratitude. Let's prepare to flow through sun salutation B. So bring your inner edges of your big toes to touch. As you breathe in, bend your knees together to touch and sit back towards your heels, raising the arms in chair pose. Utkatasana. Exhale, shift your weight forward and bow from your hips. Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Step to plank or float to Chaturanga. Insert your Vinyasa here. At downward facing dog, inhale, raise your right leg back, squaring your hips to the floor. Exhale, step your right foot beside your right thumb and spin the left heel down. Inhale, rise to stand in warrior one. Exhale, lower to flow into your version of your vinyasa. Downward facing dog. Inhale, raise your left leg back. Exhale the foot beside your left thumb and spin your right heel down. Inhale, rise up to Virabhadrasana 1. Exhale, lower, flowing on your own. Downward dog, pause and re-steady 3 cycles of breath. Bring your attention to your neck and shoulders and invite space there. Triceps rotating down, shoulder blades onto the back ribs. When you've emptied this breath, walk or lightly jump to the front of your mat. With feet touching, inhale, half forward fold. Exhale, fold. With knees touching, inhale, sit back in chair pose. Exhale to rise up. Let's come back to chair pose, breathing in. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen forward. Choose to insert a vinyasa or step directly to downward dog. Now in downward facing dog, again, try to keep your hips even in height. Inhale, raise your right leg back. This time, bend the knee towards your nose and lightly step the foot beside your right thumb and spin your left heel down, warrior 1. Rising up to stand, let's stay a little longer. So as you square both hips to face forward, root your outer left heel into the earth. Bend the front knee just over your heel. How is your breathing right now? Can you center on that for a couple cycles? Let's prepare for balance play in a hip opening posture that will bring our shoulders into flexion. Eagle pose, bend your elbows apart. Cross your right elbow over your left elbow. Hook your thumbs or wrap your forearms in palms. And then walk the shoulder blades further down as you lift your elbows to the height of your shoulders. Now engage your belly and steady your gaze. Most importantly, keep the breath slow, calm, and balanced. Begin to shift your weight onto your right foot, turning out your left leg. Flex the left foot. Wrap your left leg as much as you can over your right leg, bending both knees like you're sitting in chair. Left foot can be flexed or tuck the toes behind the right calf. Now square both hips again to face forward and find the center line of your body. Garudasana. Tune into another 4 deep breaths here. We're going to get ready for warrior 3. So unwind the left knee in front of you, flex the left foot, stand tall. Either keep your hands in eagle or join your hands in prayer at your heart. As you tilt your torso slowly forward, keep your hips evenly facing forward and straighten the left leg back, flexing the left foot. Turn the left outer hip to face the ground. Find a long horizontal line throughout the center of your body. Another 4 breaths, Virabhadrasana 3. Stepping your left foot back, 1/3 shorter stance than Warrior One. Land both heels down. And now bring your hands to your hips. Let's prepare for twisting triangle pose. So with your hands on your hips, direct both of your frontal hip bones to equally face forward. So you probably want your feet about your hips distance apart sideways. Legs stay straight. Activate your quadriceps without locking the knees. Activate your belly. So keep your right hand on your right hip and slightly draw it back because it may tend to come forward more than the left. Raise the left arm, stand a little taller, relax the shoulders, breathe in. Leaning forward from the hips until your spine is about parallel to the floor. Lower your left hand to start on the left side of your front foot. Use a block if the ground feels too low. Take your free block and by the widest width of the block, balance it on the lowest part of your lower back, like the top of your glutes. Now that will keep your pelvis from twisting so your lower back stays safe. Breathe in and stretch your spine forward. Glide your shoulders back. Keep your legs strong here, engaged. Exhale, turn your chest to the right and raise the right arm up. So breath by breath, lengthening the spine and twisting. If your balance feels pretty steady, you can place the left hand on the right side of your front foot. Let's tune into another 4 breaths here in Parita Trikonasana. Now remove the block from your lower back and lower both hands on the ground. Choose to take a vinyasa or cat-cow or meet a straight and downward facing dog. Of course, resting if you need, when you need. You know, come to think of it, when you're following somebody else, like my voice, into a series of postures and you're not really sure where it's going, that's sort of a practice in being with the unknown. Notice how you relate to that. Sometimes I notice in class, some people want to predict what's coming next, and they'll get into the next posture because they think that's logically what's going to come up. How able are you to be fully present in a posture and not have to leave it right away? How much can you appreciate what's here while it's here, such as this breath? I believe that's part of a gentle practice of confronting abhinivesha, that fear of death. Inhale, raise the left leg back. Exhale, round forward, knee to nose. Step the foot beside your left thumb and spin your right heel down. Warrior One, inhale to rise up. So allow a few breaths to really center in on how this feels. Having your feet wide enough apart so both hips are squared forward while your pelvis is upright. Back leg is straight, outer heel rooted, front knee is bent just over the ankle. Couple more breaths. Let's prepare for eagle pose. Take your time, even though you know where you're going, don't rush it. Bend the elbows apart, slide the shoulders down the back. Check in with the quality of your breath. That's so important in balancing. Cross the left elbow over the right. Hook your thumbs or wrap your forearms in palms. Relax the shoulders down, but lift your elbows up to the height of your shoulders. Now feel your belly, engage that. Begin to shift your weight forward to your left foot. Take your time. Turn out the right leg and flexing the foot. Wrap the right leg over the left. Bend both knees and sit lower to help balance. So you're either flexing your right foot outside the leg or you're tucking the toes behind the calf. Draw your right hip slightly back so both hips are still evenly facing forward. Now listen in to 4 more breaths in Garudasana. what comes up mentally or emotionally when you are playing with balance or challenging your balance. How do you relate to keeping or losing your balance? Just building awareness. Inhale, raise your right knee in front of you and flex the foot, stand tall. Preparing for warrior three, keep your arms in eagle or join your hands in prayer. Think of a seesaw as you press the right foot back to straighten the leg, tilt your torso forward until you've got a horizontal line. Square both hips to face the ground, firm the belly in. And once again, let your eyes steady gently on a spot. 4 more breaths in Virabhadrasana 3. Stepping your right foot back, 1/3 shorter stance than warrior one. Let's bring the hands to your hips, grounding both feet entirely, straighten both legs. Square your hips to face forward and activate your quadriceps and your belly. Raise the right arm up, and as you breathe in, lengthen the spine but relax the shoulders, then bow forward about until your spine is parallel to the floor. Lower the right hand on the right side of your front foot, use a block if you need it, and then place the other block wide across the lowest part of your lower back to make sure you're not turning the pelvis. Inhale again, reach the top of your head forward and glide the shoulders back, root down to your feet, and exhale, begin twisting to the left. So you're twisting at your waistline. Raise the left arm up and keep going. Notice what's there to explore here. Twisting triangle pose. Maybe you place the right hand on the left side of the foot if your balance feels pretty steady and you're ready to deepen the twist some more. 3 more breaths. Remove the block from your lower back and let's step back or flow to get to downward dog. Last flow if you want to take it. Three deep breaths. So as we move into dolphin pose, one option is to simultaneously lower both elbows to the floor and get right into it from downward dog. Triceps rotating towards the ground, shoulder blades moving down the back. Another option is to come down to your knees first, then place the elbows on the ground. You can interlace the fingers or have the forearms parallel. When you are in dolphin pose, press your chest back towards your shins so that your shoulders are slightly behind your elbows, not in front of the elbows. You might bring the feet together to touch or walk them closer to the elbows. Maybe play with lifting a leg straight up as you flex the foot and square the hips. What you do on one side, play with the other side. And when you finish 5 to 10 breaths in this first round of 2, maybe 3 inversions, then we'll meet in child's pose. Keep your head low to the ground, knees to the floor, hips back to the heels, forehead resting down. Tune into a few breaths. All right, round 2. Enter dolphin pose again from downward dog or from hands and knees. Just make sure the elbows don't splay apart, wider than shoulders distance. Take it for 5 to 10 deep breaths, whatever version of the pose you're playing with. Try to open up space throughout your neck and shoulders. And once again, back to child's pose, Balasana. You might want to give your shoulders more rest by wrapping the arms back by your outer legs. Notice how your body feels right now. What's speaking to you? All right, one last dolphin pose or headstand, supported headstand, Shirshasana. For supported headstand, it's a similar setup as dolphin. You'll want to have the version where you interlace the fingers. Elbows on the ground, shoulders distance, pressing down firmly through the outer wrists and forearms, and rotating the triceps back, shoulder blades down the back. Then you'll find the very crown of your head. Now, only practice headstand if you are free of any neck injuries. Top of the head on the floor so that the back of the skull is lightly supported by the inner palms. Rooting your outer wrists down, tuck your toes like dolphin. And then, without swinging the leg, start to lift one leg straight up, flexing the foot, and bend the opposite knee towards your belly. Then maybe you straighten that leg too and bring the feet together, inner edges of the feet pressing up towards the sky. So you're lifting the tailbone up towards the inner heels and trying to get a vertical line, stacking shoulders, hips, ankles. When you finish your last inversion for 5 to 10 breaths, again, let's meet in child's pose. Keep your head down as you transition. And let yourself rest for at least a couple or 3 breaths. Going upside down can also stimulate that fear of the unknown if going upside down is not something you usually do. So once again, notice anything that's coming up for you energetically, emotionally, mentally. And I invite you to bring a kind attention to that. Then as you're ready, plant your hands on the ground alongside your knees, and with an inhale, slowly roll your spine upright. Come to sit at the center of your mat so we can enter our last few back bends. Step your feet in front of you as we prepare for bridge pose. Now, if you want to add some more stabilizing support for the lower back, take a block and hug the skinniest width between your knees and thighs. Separate your feet about hips distance and parallel them to each other. Then lower onto your back and bring the arms close to your sides. Walk your feet back until you could almost touch your heels with your fingertips, but not quite that close. Ground your feet and the backs of your shoulders, tilt your chin back. Then with a slow in-breath, lift your pelvis, hug the block, and stretch the front of your thighs forward, lifting the chest. Walk the upper arms closer together under your back ribs, keeping your arms straight. If your hands touch, you might interlace the fingers. Stay for 5 to 10 breaths. Press the outer sides of your upper arms down and tilt your chin slightly back to open your throat. Think full, expansive breaths. Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, bridge pose. This posture is also a counterbalancing pose from bringing the shoulders in flexion. These are bringing the shoulders into extension when you're ready to come down. Exhale as you slowly lower your spine and pelvis. Just let the pelvis land as you rest for a couple of breaths before you take that one last time, bridge pose on your own. Once you're in bridge, as you're actively stretching the front of your thighs forward, keep your feet still, but energetically drag your heels back and spin your inner thighs slightly downward, keeping the thighs parallel to each other and about hips width apart. Once again, let your pelvis rest on the ground. When you're done, and pause for a few breaths. Now I invite you to take your last back bend, so that was the second bridge, either in restorative bridge, you can place the block under your sacrum and rest on it. Bow, where you lie on your stomach and catch your feet behind you, lifting the chest and the knees, or upward bow. The latter, if you practiced it before, since we're not breaking it down today, but your shoulders might be ready with all the shoulders in flexion we've done. So take your last back bend for 5 to 10 deep breaths. Let's meet in Supta Baddha Konasana. When you're done, on your back, drop your knees apart and bring the soles of your feet together to touch, resting one hand on your heart center and one hand just below your belly button. Begin to breathe longer exhales than inhales, like counting to 5 as you breathe in and counting to 7 as you breathe out. By lengthening your exhalations, helping to relax your nervous system more deeply. Then bring your hands to your outer thighs and just like an eagle pose, draw the knees together and wrap your right thigh over the left. Slide your hips to the right a few inches and open the right arm on the floor, preparing for a supine spinal twist. Keep your right shoulder on the ground, maybe gaze past it, then lift your feet and slowly drop your knees to your left side. Make sure the right shoulder stays on the ground. You can catch your legs with your blocks if you need to. Staying for 5 breaths, draw your right outer hip forward towards the front edge of your mat. And slowly roll onto your back. Center your pelvis, then wrap the left leg over the right. Scoot your hips to the left, open the left arm wide, ground the left shoulder, look past it, then lift your feet and slowly drop your knees to the right, maybe catching the legs with your blocks. Send your left outer hip towards the front edge of your mat. Then roll onto your back again. Uncross your legs. Now choose a way to lift your legs up in a cooling yin type of posture. You could simply lift the legs up here. You could elevate the lower back. on a block and lift the legs. If you have no neck and shoulder injuries and you know how to safely practice traditional shoulder stand, Salamba Sharvangasana, you can take it there, maybe to plow. So just about 5 deep breaths. Remember, if you're in shoulder stand or plow, to tilt your chin back away from your chest, trying to maintain the natural curve of your neck. You don't want to flatten the back of your neck on the ground. Nor do you want to move the head side to side. And then when you're ready, let's all meet lying flat on the ground, legs straight forward, feet together and relaxed for one more posture before we rest in corpse pose. And that is fish pose. So slip your palms face down under your glutes. Press your palms, forearms, and elbows into the ground. Tilt your chin back as far as you comfortably can. Some of you might lift the shoulders off the floor and bring the crown of your head to the ground. Try 5 clearing exhales into the nose, out to the mouth on your own before you let go to rest. And then eventually lowering your head, release the arms from under your body. You might draw your bent knees together to hug before you splay the feet apart and turn the palms up slightly away from your sides, stretching the legs for corpse pose. As you arrive, close your eyes and let your entire body soften into stillness. We'll be in Shavasana for a few minutes before sitting in meditation. As you rest in stillness with eyes closed, bring awareness throughout your body and notice how it feels now. Begin to wiggle your toes, rub your thumbs across your fingertips, gently move your shoulders and neck. And then slowly turn over onto your right side and rest your head. Notice how you're feeling now energetically by sensing the quality of your breath. Then begin to lift your body up. Find a comfortable way to sit tall, grounded, and relaxed. You may want to bring your thumb and first finger to touch with the palms face up to help tune deeper inward, or the palms face down to cultivate a feeling of grounding. Let's begin our sitting meditation for 5 minutes, closing the eyes or steadying a gentle gaze downcast. Choose an anchor to rest your awareness gently on, an anchor that helps you to connect to the present moment. You might choose the feeling of your breath naturally coming and going. If your attention moves away from your anchor, notice that and gently bring your attention back to your anchor again. Eventually, as your awareness becomes more steady on your anchor, you can start to feel a fuller absorption in the present moment, coming into that state called meditation. Notice how you're feeling now mentally and emotionally. And I invite you to call to mind something new in this moment to recognize with gratitude. And then come back to your intention. What are you inviting into this practice today? And also remember to whom you dedicated this practice. Let's bring the practice to a close, chanting together Om 3 times. Bowing in, recognize the light within. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.